Recently, while Clay was scouting, he saw a great 10-pointer we call Moose. Moose was hammering the Eagle Seed forage soybeans. The soybeans were tall and they produced a lot of forage for the deer herd throughout the summer. As fall approaches, it's time that we start thinking about our cool season food plots. Before planting, it's always important to calibrate the drill. That way, your seeding rate is correct. You may have noticed that acorns tend to be larger on wetter years than on drier years. The same is true for forage seed. On wetter years, seed can be larger, and on drier years, smaller. It's critical that you calibrate before each planting season. We're planting Eagle Seed's Fall Buffalo Blend as our cool season forage here at the Proving Grounds, so we're calibrating our Genesis drill, getting ready to put seed in the ground. If you would like to learn how to calibrate the Genesis drill step by step, check out our clips page as we have an instructional video there. Once the drill was calibrated, it was time to get seed in the ground, and we started planting right into the standing forage soybeans. You may say, gosh, why would you drive through those beans and destroy them? However, just 3 days after we planted one of our food plots, Grant and I returned, and many of the beans had stood back up. They were providing quality browse to deer, and they were producing a lot of pods.
It's time to be planting fall or cool season plots throughout much of the Whitetails range. Further north, some of the guys have already planted. Here in the Midwest, it's about time, and further south, you may want to wait a bit before you start planting seed. When to plant should be based on a couple of considerations. Most cool season forages, small grains, annual clovers, turnips, stuff like that, do best when they're planted about 45 to 60 days before the first expected frost. This range of planting dates is not only based on cooling temperatures based on an average year, but also the amount of daylight as it decreases each day. Plants need a certain amount of sunshine each day to photosynthesize or make energy. Here at the Proving Grounds, we are in that time frame. The average first frost date is about October 10th to October 15th. So we need to be planting August 15th, that'd be 60 days to October 16th, to about September, and the later in September we go, the fewer growing days we'll have before that first frost. A hard frost won't necessarily kill many of the fall food plot forages. For example, many of small grains may stall out a little bit after frost, and then when the temperatures warm up, grow again. Some of the clovers or radishes will simply stop growing after a really hard frost. That's why it's important to plant a blend of species, not only to have something that's attractive to deer throughout a larger growing season, but so something is capturing the sun's energy and converting that to food for deer and other critters, no matter what the conditions are. Another really important consideration is the amount of soil moisture. So we've already planted this field, but it's turned hot and dry again. That can be expected here in the Ozarks at late August, early September. So we've stopped planting, and we won't start planting again until there's at least moisture or rain in the forecast. Fortunately, we used a buffalo system. As you can see, we've already drilled through or used a Genesis drill to plant this area, and there's either mulch on the ground where there was a tire track or standing vegetation, in this case Eagle Seed forage soybeans, shading the soil, keeping that temperature down and conserving soil moisture. That's critical because we've already planted this field. And if we had disc it and that sun's baking down on it, that first inch of soil, gosh, it could get to 120 or even hotter. And that can kill germination in seeds. As it is, these seeds will lay there cool and dormant, waiting on moisture, or in the shade, have enough moisture to go ahead and grow. I'm sure I'll get some questions. Well, Grant, about 50% of your beans are laying on the ground, but they're not wasted at all. See, beans, being legumes, break down really quickly when there's moisture when it rains. So the beans on the ground, remember about 50% are standing, still making pods. But the ones on the ground, that's quick release fertilizer for my fall food plot, the fall buffalo blend. Beans break down much quicker than a cereal grain. So as soon as we get rain and the seed we planted start growing, that rain will cause these beans on the ground to decompose rapidly, giving a big push of fertilizer right when that fall food plot needs it. The slow release fertilizer in the form of the beans laying on the ground not only are going to add nutrients, which makes the plants grow better, but makes them much more attractive. And who doesn't want their fall vegetation super attractive to pull those bucks into the plot? The buffalo system is a year-round project, so that fall crop, the fall buffalo blend, will come on strong. Deer will feed on it all winter. In the spring, it will bolt or put on a bunch of tons quickly. We'll plant right through that, then terminate with the Goliath crimper, that fall buffalo blend, and that becomes slow release fertilizer, but it's even slower. It breaks down slower than this rich legume we got laying on the ground here, which gives me nutrition through that long summer growing season, and because there's mulch longer, gives me many more months of weed suppression. As a quick summary, the time to plant fall plots is 45 to 60 days before the first expected frost in your area. We could always have a really early or really late frost, and when there's ample soil moisture. Another huge advantage to the buffalo system in the fall rotation is we didn't clean the table. If we had dished this field, it'd be bare, there's no rain, nothing growing, and deer would go, gosh, there's nothing here. Grant doesn't like me. I'm gonna go feed on the neighbor's property or wherever there's a food source. As it is, we've kept the buffet open. We didn't clean the table. We've still got the last course here, and there's plenty of it with the new course coming out of ground. We've got video of bucks feeding in here daily. They're gonna continue feeding because there's obviously more food than they're gonna consume before the next crop comes on strong. There's more than just vegetation here. The Eagle Seed beans have made a bunch of pods. Those pods will mature over time and be an awesome cold season food source, a big attraction because when it gets cold, deer love those pods, they're full of energy, and you can bet somebody on the Growing Deer team will be hunting and likely tag some bucks here.
Growing Deer is brought to you by Bass Pro Shops and Cabela's. Also by Reconics, Eagle Seed, Nikon, Winchester, Lacrosse Footwear, Morel Targets, Bog, Hooks Custom Calls, Montana Decoy, Summit Tree Stands, Drake Non-Typical Clothing, RTP Outdoors, Yamaha, Fourth Arrow, Onyx Hunt, Scent Crusher, Scorpion Venom Archery, Blood Sport Arrows, Code Blue, Decode, G5 Broadheads, Prime Bows, and Redneck Hunting Blinds.
Having a food plot system like the buffalo system that provides standing soybeans with pods and greens underneath, well, it's not only healthy for the soil, but it also produces great hunting opportunities.
We've had so many successful hunts here, we don't want to limit this to one location. So I've got a 15-foot redneck blind over here that allows me to see up around the corner and this whole flat area down here, and that's been awesome. But that's only really for a south or a west wind. In the winter, we have a lot of north winds, so if I turn around, I've got another redneck down 100 yards or so at the other end of the field, and that allows us to cover this whole portion of this plot. So on a strong north wind, a cold day, we can zip down there or come in from the south, getting that blind by coming up the creek. Deer never know we're in their area, and that cold day, it's gonna be a north or a west wind, and thermals going downhill, sinking to the creek. That's a perfect location, and it's put a lot of venison in the woods freezer.
During the opening day of Missouri's firearm season just a few years ago, Raleigh and I had a fun hunt out of a redneck blind overlooking crabapple. It was a still, cool morning, and the thermals were rolling down off the mountain, taking our scent to the creek that was behind us. This allowed us to hunt the entire crabapple food plot without alerting any deer. Crabapple has standing grain and greens growing underneath, but because it was so cool that morning, we suspected that deer would be feeding on the energy-rich pods. Winchester's Deer Season XP was accurate and hit its mark. As we were enjoying the moment, Raleigh looked over and noticed there was a doe still out in the plot, feeding on the pods. Having the standing beans helped Raleigh punch 2 tags and bring home a lot of fresh venison. We all get excited when we make a great shot on a doe and she goes down within sight. Some folks may stop hunting at this point. If they see a doe go down within sight of their hunting location, they may climb down, recover the doe, and go home. But if you've got another tag in your pocket, especially a buck tag, you better sit tight. Some hunters fear that having a harvested deer down in the area that they're hunting will alert other deer. Deer don't look at a doe laying on the ground and think, gosh, we gotta get out of here. Deer simply see and smell another deer. When one's laying down within sight of a hunter, that's the time you sit tight and see what else will show up. 2 seasons ago, I harvested a mature doe that went down at the edge of a food plot.
I've already put one in the chamber. I'm on safety, but I'm ready for the next one to step out.
And I got to see quite the show as just a few minutes after tagging that doe, multiple deer came over to check her out and they never associated her with danger. In fact, a few hours later, I heard a soft grunt up on the mountain. I hit the messenger, and a few minutes later, a nice buck was coming down the mountain and he was headed straight for the doe that I'd harvested. Oh my word, Wes. Look at that. Just a few days later, Grant and I were hunting in a redneck blind overlooking a bedding area. And early into the hunt, I was able to punch another doe tag.
She's down by that big clump of grass.
Yeah. Later that morning, a hitless buck we call head turner walked out right on the edge of the bedding area.
I got grass right over the kill zone. Hit the messenger, Daniel. Oh, it's a good deer. He sees your doe.
If you look closely, you can see that another deer had bedded down close to the doe that I'd harvested. Head turner wasn't frightened. In fact, seeing the doe probably gave the appearance that all was clear, and head turner kept on going up the mountain right towards us.
He's down. He's down.
Head turner's down. Can you believe that?
Oh my word.
This season, don't be afraid to stay in the blind or stand after harvesting a deer. Deer rarely associate a harvested deer with danger. In fact, getting down, recovering a doe, and going back and climbing up into your stand, well, that just leaves more scent and can actually alert more deer than if you just stayed in your stand or blind.
Just because you harvest a deer doesn't mean you need to get out of the stand. We stayed put, and it resulted in a nice mature buck after we'd shot the doe.
If you enjoy the hunting tips or the management techniques that we share here on Growing Deer, I encourage you to check out some of our other videos. Give us a thumbs up, subscribe, and share a link with your friends. Whether you're planting food plots, sitting in the tree stand, or just enjoying a walk outside, I hope you take time every day to slow down and enjoy creation. But more importantly, I hope you seek the Creator and find the purpose He has for your life. Thanks for watching Growing Deer.